Stepping into your dream life or becoming her is not all about the perfect morning routine, waking up before the sun, or cute matching workout sets. It's about how you treat yourself when life is not aesthetic. So let's talk about it. Hello, everybody. My name is Michaela, and I'm the host of the Cozy and Thriving podcast, the podcast where we just learn to build a life that we actually want to be present for. And now it is also the Future You podcast. I did not want to change the name again because I think I've changed this podcast name 3 times. So I wanted to make sure that I kept the branding and everything. And Cozy and Thriving is just me. It's just who I am. It makes sense for me in this podcast, but I also realized that I have a lot of you here from the Future You series, and I wanted it to be known that just because I started the Future You series does not mean that's not what my podcast is about. I just named a couple of episodes like that so we could get started, but this entire podcast is about building your future self. It's about building a life that you actually want to be present for. And I made a post on Instagram about how I was like revamping this podcast. Like it's the same kind of format. It's the same location. Like I haven't really changed a whole lot about it. The name's the same, but I felt like there was a missing space. There is the slow living space, there's the wellness space, there's the self-development space. And I feel like this podcast fits into all of those, but it brings a realistic element because I think a lot of times when we listen to those podcasts, it's a lot of this is how you live this wellness lifestyle, or this is how you live this slow living lifestyle, or this is how you live and self-development all the time. But this podcast is like everything mixed together. And it's really like when you go down to the very like core of what this podcast is, it's truly about building something that you can be proud of, that you can be happy about, and that you're not running from. You're not trying to change every 5 seconds. You're not trying to get out of something every 5 seconds. You're building something that you love where you are. And so that's where this podcast is. That's what this is. I'm excited about it. I think that it's cool that I'm like evolving this podcast while I'm evolving, and like just having the birthday and reflecting on everything and being like, wow, I really made it through my 20s. Like that was a roller coaster in itself, but now I get to live off of what I built in that and continue to build it and build a life that I am proud of and that I actually want to be present for. So yeah, that's just a little spiel about this podcast and like where it's going and what it always has been. But I don't think I've actually ever put out like, hey, this is what the podcast is about. So it's about like every aspect of life. And because I'm a content creator and an entrepreneur and a podcaster and everything, like I just kind of like lump all of that into it because that's my life and my experience. But I know that there's so many of you who are on the same path and the same like, or in the same lifestyle. So yeah, it's just for all of us. It's all for all of us. We're all part of this Cozy Girls Club, and I'm so very excited for us to grow, and I'm thankful for all of you. And yeah, so let's just get into the episode because I feel like I could yap about that forever. Today we are talking about building a life that we actually want to be present for. We are actually building our future you. And what I realized was when I did the Future You series on my podcast and even on like TikTok, I don't know if I put it on Instagram, but I know that I did some type of short form. When I did that, I realized how good it was to put it on paper, but then how, I won't say overwhelming, but like how unrealistic, I guess, it is to actually like look at those and then be like, okay, I'm only going to pick this one, or I'm only going to do this, because I felt like I had like an overarching habit that I wanted to do or overarching goal that I wanted to reach. But to reach those goals or to do those habits, there was like 15 things that I had to do underneath. And so just to pick one was turning into picking one, but having like aspects of everything else. And to be honest, I don't think that it's possible to do everything like that in a year. I think that as you grow and as you evolve and as you change, the habits and the things that you said you wanted to do also change. So it's cool to put like habits down that you want to get or goals that you want to reach or whatever the case is for you, whatever you're trying to reach. But then when it comes down to the like actually doing the thing, it almost seems impossible. Not that it is impossible, but it almost seems that way. So what I want to do today is actually break it down to make the habits and the goals that you want to reach feel less overwhelming, because if you were overwhelmed, I was right there with you. It was just a lot. Like, it works, but it also was just a lot. And I feel like I am one of those people that's just kind of like in the middle. I've seen like type A and type B, and then I even asked like ChatGPT to make me like a quiz to figure out what I was, because I'm like so in the middle. I feel like I lean more on the type A side, but I'm also kind of type B and type C and type D. So if you didn't know that there were more than just two types, now you do. I would ask ChatGPT to make you like a little quiz and take the quiz. But I was definitely in the middle. So I don't know. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. So your future you starts with little changes, little habits that you do, and not these big overhauls. Even though we're like, yeah, we're going to do just one habit, or oh, we're only going to pick one goal to reach. They turn into your life. They turn into everything. You stress yourself out trying to get there. You stress yourself out trying to do this habit. And instead of just being like, okay, I didn't do it today, I'm going to try it tomorrow, I'm going to try something else, we just get so overwhelmed with it. And then we end up like back where we've started. I wanted to kind of talk about my love for rebranding in this one. It sounds like, what are we talking about? But at the same time, it makes sense. So just follow me here. But I love to rebrand. I also love to redo my house. If you watch the podcast, you have probably seen me in so many different locations. I've made a set, I've taken it down, I've used my iPhone and just sat outside. I've set up the whole camera. I've done so many different ways of this podcast, and I've changed the name, changed the brand, changed how I wanted everything to be like every single time. And I love the actual like act of doing that. And I love the act of like rebranding and freshening things up and doing all the things. But then to execute it almost puts you back at ground zero. When I started this podcast, it was called Another Cozy Morning, I think. And it was going to be me doing my podcast like in the morning, but I actually never get to do it in the morning. Like I think about it and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to start, but then I just never get to it. So that just was not working. So I was like, okay, I needed to an entire rebrand. But every single time you do that, there has to be some execution that you put into a rebrand. There has to be marketing. There has to be like letting people know or not letting people know, and just kind of like show up and show out. There's like a lot of things that go behind a rebrand versus a name and some color changes. It actually comes with, okay, am I rebranding just because I don't like the sound of this, or I don't like the look of this, or am I rebranding because that's the direction that I need to go? So if you think about it in your life and you have goals and habits you want to reach, are you making those habits because you're seeing other people do them and you feel like that's what you need to do because you don't like your habits? Or are you doing the habit because that's where you need to go, that's where you are wanting to go, or you see yourself like, I don't know, working out always just seems like the easiest example to give. But if you're working out just because you see a bunch of other people working out and you're doing these hardcore workouts or Pilates and you don't like Pilates or whatever the case is, and you're doing that just because that's what everybody else is doing, that habit's not going to stick. The habit comes from you wanting to see change and doing the little things daily. If you're wanting to be healthier, drink more water. Buy the like greens. I talked about Bloom on the last podcast. I love Bloom, the little Bloom greens. I started doing those and just like fueling myself with better things so that way I have better health, on top of doing the little workouts like walking or my little like train well workouts or whatever the case is. Like, it's very tailored to me and what I know I can do, and it changes my habits and the way that I view things versus it being, this is what everybody else is doing and everybody else is eating, but I don't like any of that and I can't do that and that doesn't work with my lifestyle, but I have to make it work because that's what XYZ is telling me to do. No, it's your life. You need to fit things into your life the way that they're going to work for you and not for everybody. If you think that you can change your life overnight, you're going to be burnt out by Tuesday. You're going to be burnt out in the next 2 days because you can't just take your entire life, everything that you've built. We're going to talk about the fact that I'm 30 right now. If I'm 30 years old and I took everything that I built up until I was 30 years old and I said, you know what? I don't want to do any of it. I want to completely change it. I don't want to do any of it anymore. I want to dress differently. I want my house to look different. I want to work out differently. I want to eat differently. I want to hang around different people. I want to move out of the state, whatever the case is, whatever that is, I'm trying to change everything. I would be so overwhelmed because what is that? I've built up my wardrobe. I've built up the things in my house. I've built up these habits already to overcome. And it took 30 years to get here. So why would I just think that the 30 years of work that I've put in to better myself or to get to where I am today is going to change in a snap and it be easy peasy? So just know the little things are better than the big things, because the little things are what we don't see but make such a huge difference, like drinking water or taking greens or whatever. The little things are going to make such a huge difference. That kind of leads me into the next one, which is growth can be slow and intentional. Please, please, please hear me when I say that you do not need to rush your dream life or becoming her or your soft girl era. You don't have to rush that. If it takes you 6 months to build consistency, that's still growth, and that's something to be proud of, because that means for 6 months you have been focused on building this one thing. You have been doing the thing to make yourself consistent in an area. I was trying to think of of an example, but I couldn't think of one. You were putting in the work to be consistent. If on day one you woke up and you said, I am going to go outside for 5 minutes, and you went outside that day and even maybe the next day and even maybe the next day, but the fourth day you were like, I'm laying in bed. It's raining today. I don't need to go outside. And then you haven't for a week, but then you're like, oh my gosh, I need to get back outside. And you go back outside and you do it again. And this time it's a little bit longer, and then it rains again, or it's too cold, or you forget, or you sleep in, and you're like, oh man, I didn't get to go outside at the time that I wanted to go outside, whatever. And then you're like, I'll just do it tomorrow, or I will still do it even though it's not as early as I wanted to do it, or it's too late, or it's not sunny, whatever. I'm still going to step outside. You're putting your focus on doing that thing that you want to do. You're putting your mind to something, which is making you think about it more, which is making you want to do it more. And eventually your consistency, when you get off of that, you're like, what the heck? This is weird. I need to go back and do that. It becomes such a part of your life and a part of who you are that when you don't do something, it feels weird. It feels weird. Like it felt weird when you were trying to build the habit. It's going to feel weird when you don't do the habit, which beautiful. So build the consistency and just know that it's okay if it takes a while, if it takes a little bit, because growth is intentional. Growth is slow. I've used this example before, but if you're to plant a apple tree and you put the seed in the ground, you would not expect that tree to be fully grown in the next month. I don't really know how long it takes apple trees to grow. So I'm going to say like 5 years. I feel like I've heard that trees take kind of like years to grow, but you would not expect the tree to grow overnight. You would not expect the tree to start producing fruit within the next week. You would just tend to it and care for it and build that habit of taking care of it each time until it was to where it was. And then you would be like, oh, I don't even remember there not being an apple tree in my backyard, or I don't even remember there not being an apple tree here. Hopefully that makes sense. That's how I've been looking at it. I've just been looking at my life and just how the things that I've wanted to see and the things like I put timelines to and they didn't come how I wanted them to, just like knowing like I'm an apple tree. I'm still growing. The fruit is still there. I have all of that in me. I just have to allow myself to be watered and to take care of myself and build habits, and I'll get there. So also, just like future you is built in the tiny choices that you make, it's also built in the little moments and the little changes in life and in seasons, and just allowing yourself to be present. Again, reflecting on my life, I know I probably will have a lot of reflections since I'm 30 right now, but just reflecting back like on my life and the things that I like, just the memories and things that like pop up and the things that I think about, I just feel like, wow, how like in the moment I could have not seen myself at 30. I could have not seen myself where I am right now because I just felt like that moment was going to last forever. I don't know if anybody else was like that. Like, super unserious, but I remember being in high school, I remember being in middle school and just like thinking like, okay, I'm glad I have like 6 more years of school because I don't know what life is like outside of school. Like, what am I going to do outside of school? I'm going to have to get a job. I'm going to have to do all of these things. I'm going to have to be an adult. I just didn't know life outside of school. So just thinking even back to like that time, or even in my 20s where I was just like, wow, this little glimpse of my life, this little part of my life is going to shape me for the rest of my life. I remember going into a job for the first time and like sitting down for my interview and being extremely nervous and not knowing if I was qualified, which I probably wasn't because I had never worked a job before. And all these things, like it was just like these little moments in my life, these small memories that I had that shaped me to who I am today. And getting my first job, I worked at a baseball stadium at the like little kids playground thing. I think there's like the National Baseball League and then there's like a minor baseball league, but it's still like professional baseball. I worked at that and they had like a little bounce house and like I was like in charge of like collecting tickets, selling tickets to that, all these things. And it was like this small little job that I had that I realized I can work. I enjoyed the job that I had, like just working with kids. That's kind of like what I was doing. But then as I got older, I realized how my like desires changed and how stepping into different spaces also shaped who I wanted to be, and like being around people that went to school. It's just like all these little moments. I hope this is making sense. It's all these little moments in your life that you realize is what shaped you now, and that you are living your future you. Like when I was in high school, not knowing what I was going to do, like I'm living my future you because I went through all of that, all the things that I went through and made the mistakes that I made and changed them and learned from them and all of the things. So hopefully that's making sense, but just be okay being present in the moment and knowing this is going to help shape me. This is going to help me grow. And time moves so fast, y'all. It moves so fast. And I feel like if we don't realize that, we're going to like look back and be like, oh my gosh, how am I 80 years old and I still haven't accomplished all these things? Or I have accomplished all these things, but I don't even remember accomplishing them, or whatever the case is. Like, just live in the moment, be present, be excited, be happy about what you're doing and where you are, and just have fun with it. And yeah, I think that's it. That's all I have for you for this episode. Let me know if this helped you. I want to start like engaging with you guys a lot more. I wish that there was more on YouTube, but I know on Spotify, like I could put polls and things. So like I probably will put a question down there and you guys can like answer the question, because I really do want to engage, and I want to build this community with you guys. And I think that this podcast has opened a lot of doors for that, and we're just gonna have a good time, a good time. So don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. You guys, I really actually, for anything, for my birthday, what I want is for you guys to leave a review on Spotify or Apple, whatever you're on. I realized how much that really helps the podcast. And I think that it would be like just really cool to see what you guys think of the podcast. I would say rate it 5 stars, but like literally rate it what you what you want and what you think that it is. I want honest reviews, honest feedback. And yeah, I think that will also help me be able to like cater this podcast better for you guys. And yeah, I think that's it. But yeah, so I said like, share, comment, subscribe. Please do all those things, but also actually rate the podcast and give me your honest feedback. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and Substack. Instagram and TikTok are just kind of like places where I feel like I can connect with you guys throughout the week, but Substack will be just more of a place to really give you guys more things for the podcast. So yeah, you guys can follow me there. But until next time, everybody, I hope you have a wonderful week, a wonderful rest of your Sunday if you're listening on a Sunday. And if you're not, that's okay. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day that you are living in. And until next Sunday, I'll see you guys later. Bye, everybody.